Yeah, and I really think like even in game one, as much as Sladen is a pretty beast on the four, whenever you stick him on a hero like the Weaver, as much as you can gush about Weaver, having the Mirana, even though it's in at least essence a very similar hero, it still can make just a few more plays. It has a little bit more setup. And for Zoomers in elimination, go for the Bounty Hunter. They've got some pretty big balls because this is something that has worked before. It worked in, I think, a matchup that they weren't necessarily pushed too hard by their opponents, but we'll have to see. They picked it for the exact same reason as well, because there was the Mirana on the opposing team, so just having some vision. And Infamous are not messing around. They picked the Lesh. I really think we're starting to take this draft in two very different directions.
Should be a Loans hero for the Leshrac as well. Of course, that does mean uh, against the Disruptor, you are going to have to be a little bit careful of your positioning. BKB looking just about like a necessity for that Lesh, although, I mean, 9 times out of 10 it already is. But the thing on the 4 Zoomer side with the Disruptor and the Bounty, I'm pretty sure that basically forces the Tiny now into that core position. 4 Zoomers have tried the Bounty once in Z-Freak's hands, and then I think once as a core, and it worked much, much better for them in that 4 position. So I would assume they'd be doing the same here. That does mean that Tiny has to be either your off laner or your mid laner here.
Yeah, and I hazard to say he could still go into the safe lane, but I feel like that's where the Monkey King is just a little bit too awkward. It could be an off laner for all we know. I think the only thing that's solidified right now on Forzumer side is that Husky is probably the disruptor. I think that's really the only thing that we can call. But it's not like Infamous are really having trouble here. They've got a lot of time to figure out their last few bans, but it's where Infamous's lineup certainly feels a lot stronger in the other avenues. And I mean, it almost feels better, I think, if we get the Monkey King going versus the Timbersaw and then still have the Tiny as a 4, and then maybe we put Moo on the Bounty Hunter. It certainly feels like Force Zoomers have gotten a little bit weird with it, but again, that's where maybe they figured out something before everything else. They do have the Disruptor Bounty Hunter combo where you do have the track vision provided to get that glimpse. So Husky is very possibly not going to be as strapped as he is in maybe some other games where he's shooting in the dark a little bit, looking for those glimpse backs. But it's now a question of whether or not 4 Zoomers have enough damage. If they can actually keep the kills rolling. And I think that's where Infamous in banning out this Pugna, not only Gunner having the history on it, but it's exactly what they need. They need someone who's going to keep the ball rolling, who's going to keep the lineup with the damage here. And if they need to, well, the Ember is still there. I would really love to see it just a little bit, but it's also where I think Gunner, he can definitely perform, but you might want something, I don't know, a little bit more stable, I hazard to say, but it's also like, what do you do now to, I don't want to say fix the lineup either, but you need someone who's going to give you, I think, more of that consistent magic damage. You need control. You don't really have any lockdown on Zoomer's side. And well, let's see.
Okay.
Well, there's your lockdown. There's your matchup versus the Leshrac as well, but we have not seen this hero do well in the tournament. Invoker has really struggled to, I think, find his movements and find his moments in a lot of these games. So we got to see something huge out of Gunner.
Yeah, Invoker in a position in recent times in the current meta where you really can't ever afford to miss. Any rotation that fails, any gank that doesn't work out, even if you don't farm well in that sort of middle lane initially, and your Invoker's playing catch-up and he's not really great at it from what we've seen. So high risk, high reward if you're 4 Zoomers. If Gunner can show us something on this Invoker, get off to a strong start and maintain that momentum, most importantly, into the mid game, then okay, this will look different. Their team fight takes a major step forward, but I'm always afraid when we see that Invoker that it's just going to be that same unbelievably poor Invoker game.
Yeah, and then for Infamous, it's Lumiere, right? So you're thinking, do you look at his Faceless Void? Do you look at his Terrorblade? Is the Elimination Terrorblade really what we've come down to? If there is even a chance that this is going to be a tiny carry, they have to be thinking about that matchup in the back of their mind. Same with the Monkey King, where they just want someone who's going to be able to consistently do damage versus these heroes, while at the same time having an ability that's going to allow them to survive up that long fight. And I feel like it's got to be one of those two, but okay, it's the Razor instead. And well, it kind of evens it out, and it will just be the Moo Tiny and the Costa Beeline Monkey King. But well, that's a position we haven't seen the Tiny in just yet in this tournament. we'll have to see what Moo can actually do because, well, magic damage wise, that hero is certainly a lot weaker. I almost feel like he should get more points in the tree grab just so he can lane up a little bit better. And well, that lane is not going to be very nice because you are playing versus a Razor. So I feel like that's almost an immediate concede from at least one of ForZoomer's lanes, which is not something you really want to be saying.
Yeah, not a good look, especially going into the third game of a best of three, where you're saying, yeah, we might have to sack a lane here. That's not ideal, but Moo on the Tiny is just not ideal, generally speaking, regardless of the matchup, just because that's not where we've seen the hero in recent times. It's not where the Tiny sort of plays to the majority of its strengths, but well, who knows? Four Zoomers have gotten away with being weird in the past. Maybe at the end of this, we're talking Moo up for, some sort of breakthrough position 3 Tiny performance. But it feels like, unlike some of the other games, the pressure is not going to be on Moo here. It's going to be all about the Invoker and the Monkey King making these plays.
Yeah, and what a way to go out. It would suck for four Zoomers if they literally lose because of last pick Razor, but that's the advantage. One team gets last pick twice, 9 times out of 10, and I think that's where now it's just going to be up to their play. Whether or not Z-Free can really run the gamut, run around, I want to say all of the lanes, killing water runes, getting bounty runes, killing couriers. I want to see this bounty hunter work, but at the same time, there's just a level of consistency that really hasn't been shown. Not to mention, again, it's all back to Gunnar. Gunnar needs to do a lot with this hero. He needs to slow down the opposing Leshrac while also setting up for kills in the side lanes. And I feel like even saving the Razor lane a little bit because there's a very real possibility of Lumiere getting ahead of himself, overextending whenever Moo is linked up and not able to do damage and then getting TP'd on by the Invoker. But it still needs to all spell out for them. At the same time as well, I'm a little bit worried about Costabile because last time we played this matchup in the Hikori series, Vitali almost killed him, I want to say 2 or 3 times in lane. There was just such an even level disparity that, well, things got pretty close. But yeah, smoke breaks. Looks like everything's going to be dodged out.
What a play from Z-Freak, and that's, well, maybe a little bit of scouting coming into play once again, because under normal circumstances, standing on that ramp doesn't make a lot of sense, especially with Costabile all the way underneath the tower, but that long wrap to come up from the south ramp is something that Infamous sort of like to do and have done multiple times, so Z-Freak is just able to scout that out. Meanwhile, Infamous actually put both of their wards in this south side jungle, so not a lot of consideration for the mid lane, no consideration for their top lane. They just want to have constant vision over this jungle area, and now they're going to look to make a play there, but remember in the draft I said that's a nigh unmissable combo? Well, every once in a while, one slips through there. The timing's a little bit off and the arrow doesn't hit.
Yeah, sucks to lose out on that. Z-Freak was also just already standing in the right direction and doesn't mess around with turn speed at all, just gets to run away still. But that's also where, looking at the lanes, they do this a lot, and Husky is actually going to be the one laning up with Moo just because you get that lane balance, you get the range with the melee, but now you do wonder if Z-Freak is going to get shoved aside a little bit more here, and what Husky's actually able to do versus the Razor. At the very least, Lumiere doesn't start with a link in the lane because he had used it before, and not a good link at that much, but that's where Moo really has to be careful here, and maybe Tiny's just broken. Maybe it's just good everywhere, but that's where we're really going to have to see a lot from him as well.
And I said, sort of finishing off the draft, that, there wasn't going to be a crazy amount of pressure on Moo to be the guy, but you are still looking for him to make some contributions as a core hero, just as a baseline, as Lumiere, well, gonna be able to get off a longer duration link that time, but he just takes so much damage in exchange. Husky got pretty much every hit on the Thunder Strikes down onto him, so that is one of the downsides there as Affliction loses his courier. If you put your opponent under for the disruption, cool. Long duration static link happens. Problem is, while he's in the disruption, you're not actually hitting him. Moo doesn't really take any damage coming out of that, and Lumiere doesn't like that play, honestly.
Yeah, and that's where Husky is going to be incredibly annoying. He's very pesky on this hero. There's not much that A can really do to help out his Razor as well. He's not a tanky hero. He's not the Ogre that we're so used to seeing him on. And I think that's where perhaps a problem could arise in a few minutes. Not to mention that tree throw is base damage, or flat damage rather, meaning that early on it still kind of hurts, and it also scales pretty nicely once you get those grow levels. The problem with the tiny that I see is just that all of his spells do a lot less damage, and that he needs the grow and he needs that levels or those levels so that way he's actually able to do mid game damage. That seems to be the problem with the hero, and I think one that could be exasperated by the offense position, but we'll see. He's doing pretty okay right now, though.
Okay. They get the static link down again, but again, there's that problem. If you put him under for the disruption, then you don't get the full damage output. They turn around with the Thunder Strikes, they hit him up with the toss, or not the toss, excuse me, the Avalanche and the Tree Toss. And once again, Lumiere gets the worst of that exchange, so... I mean, there's synergy in theory with that combo, right? But if you're looking for damage as early and quickly as possible, it doesn't really work out for you.
Yeah, I think this is where they really need to take a step back, but yeah, Moo's got a kill.
He's got
Lumiere's
stick
dead.
charges. Nope, not gonna matter. Lumiere gets taken down. First blood to Moo. Off lane Tiny looking okay so far. And A, and they actually kill him here. Moo doesn't have any spells, but the right clicks might just be enough. Yep, double kill for your Tiny. And okay, this lane looking pretty fantastic for them. Moo and Husky both drop pretty low themselves, but they will straight up win that fight. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the map, Z-Freak, I love this. Sladen, going to be so annoying on that Mirana. Always looking to make plays, always looking to roam. But if the bounty's just going to mirror those movements, there's not as much space for Sladen to work with.
Yeah, now your Mirana is fairly displaced. Z-Freak's going to be able to pick up the bounty rune as well, which honestly doesn't feel like too big of an adventure. And I do like this, however. They are trying to sync up the Shadow Demon with the Mirana. He does have leap, so if he needs to, he could kind of fasten the rate of that arrow, but it's also where, well, the lane's kind of stabilized. Moo got a bottle with that first blood gold, and he was just able to get pretty much fully healed. And they're going to try onto the Tiny, but I almost feel like they should maybe switch targets. I don't know if they get Moo.
Oh, they're going to try. There's that plasma field coming in. Okay. They're going to be able to get it. Got a little close there, and Lumiere's not the one to get the kill, but you needed to put pressure on Moo there after him getting 2 kills to start things off, and, well, good play from Sladen. Just gets a little bit of separation from Z-Freak shadowing him, and TP's into position. The question now is, does he go back down bot? Because this is a Timbersaw in this lane. Of course, against the Monkey King, you are maybe a little bit more concerned, but feels like Oscar could just sort of really play this one out on his own, and Sladen would be free to sort of maneuver between top and mid pretty frequently.
Yeah, and there certainly is the problem that kind of arises with the Monkey King versus Timbersaw matchup, where you always have Jingu, you always are able to outdamage him when it comes to going for last hits, and that's where Oscar has to use pretty much all of his mana to ensure he does get those last hits, but it's something that I think, yeah, Z-Freak does decide just to go top, continues to be a thorn in their side here, and if they know where they are, well, all of the pressure has evaporated from mid. Gunnar gets to just lane by himself, basically, versus Alone, and Alone is also going for, I want to say, the split-up build on the Leshrac, because he knows if he doesn't use his mana, well, Gunnar's going to do this, and, well, there it goes.
And meanwhile, up in the top lane, Husky gonna get himself caught out there. Same sort of combo coming into play as they find the kill. Z-Freak, though, is still playing up a little bit here. Shuriken Toss comes in. Yeah, he should just be able to walk away. Affliction, a few seconds left for the disruption, but they're actually going to try to go in. Moo has the Avalanche. He's going to throw that out. The toss will come through as well. Actually, no, it won't. He'll hold it. That means, yeah, Sladen was able to just sort of soften up A a little bit. Or excuse me, not A, Z-Freak. As Lumiere comes in to find a kill of his own. So, all in all, you get kills into the hands of your cores, but Moo certainly had to work a bit harder for that one compared to Lumiere, who just casually strolls over and pops the plasma field. So, it feels like this lane is starting to stabilize a little bit for the Razor, which sounds strange considering we've got somewhere between 5 and 6 heroes up here at all times now, but he just wants to sort of calm it down, farm up. If the kill comes his way, fine, but doesn't want to move too significantly. But at this point, ET, the movement is coming from the supports. A and Sladen are both sort of rotating their way towards mid, but Z-Freak is going to scout out that movement.
Yeah, and unfortunately, when the scout out does come, it just means that Lumiere is pushed even further back. And I think that's where they do need to look for a play onto Gunner, at least somewhere in the laning phase, but it's where, unfortunately, as long as Gunner can stay alive, there's no attempt on this mid tower. You never get cheeky with the last Shrek. It's always going to be alone, I think, playing in that small camp instead, and you slow down the pace of the game. And I think that's where four Zoomers are going to feel very confident coming in towards those early late stages because, well, you've got Ern already on Gunner. He finds those plays, and he certainly is going to have those plays available to them. The combo that Slayton and A perform, it's very expensive mana wise. They don't really have very much to provide after the fight. Really, everything else is coming in from Lumiere, and I think that's where all it takes is one whiff in the top lane, and then Gunner could very easily look for a double or a triple kill.
We'll see who makes that first move. You see, still kind of hanging around here towards the tower, and hey, that's not very subtle, but well, they were looking for it. But at that point, Lumiere's too far away, and unless you're going directly onto Husky, you do still need the Razor in there damage-wise to actually pick off someone like the Tiny. So they're not going to have that opportunity at the moment. Meanwhile, Slayton actually ended up going mid for just a little while, so that Alone could sort of make a trip back to the base. Slayton picks up maybe half a level experience-wise, so nothing too massive for him, but at least they're trying to be efficient with their time here.
Yeah, unfortunately, Gunner actually, instead of being able to go top, got pulled bottom because Costabile needed help, and oh boy, Oscar is really pressing up onto the Monkey King, and unfortunately, without Costabile having a salve or a buddy to lane with, he's got the Ring of Health regen coming, but there's really not much to do here for him, and he's gotten to the point where he does so much damage on that Timbersaw that, well, I guess this is going to be their entrance onto the game, because someone's got to come deal with this tower push bottom, even though they're running at Slayton mid, and, oh, they actually whip with the Tornado. It was a nice leap, but this means that bottom's push is still coming.
That means they now have to commit the Glyph, so this is getting very complicated, and there's still no help for this Monkey King. He just has to sit here and sort of watch the tower slowly tick down. As Alone's coming back in, Edict's back up, so okay, at this point, yeah, if there's no one coming to help, get the Monkey King out of there. He'll TP top, look to keep on farming. The tower will be claimed, but now you've rolled that bottom tower. Oscar has options. For now, he's going to stay down bot and continue to farm, but that does not have to be the case. He could get involved somewhere else, like mid perhaps, where A is not really able to hold that tower by himself.
No, isn't able to do it. Gets caught off by Moo, and of course, Tiny's next to tree lines. They're very scary. It's very easy for Moo to just pop someone, but that's also where you finally got some earn charges in Gunner, so now he can actually have that cold snap play available to him. And Clayton gets hit up, but this is a very awkward position for the Radiant Heroes.
Arrow connects onto Moo. Split Earth is a little off the mark. The toss now will kill Slayton, and, well, poor Zoomers just sort of rush heroes to the point of attack. Now they get the glimpse onto Alone, pulling him back into the river. They should be able to find a second here, because your Lesh, he used everything. He has no mana. He's just going to get caught out, and, well, Oscar is now here, but at this point all he's going to be able to do is just sort of stand guard over the tower. Too late to affect the fight.
Yeah, and that's where Oscar, I think he's only going to keep this cloak a cloak because he does need that Yule Scepter pretty quickly in this game. So there's going to be an opportunity where Gunner's going to have that Spirit Vessel and Oscar might not be ready to tank up versus it. And without a Dispel, then that damage is certainly going to be there. This is also where the carts have respawned. If 4 Zoomers need to, they could just flood heroes towards this top lane. They want to keep this card alive, and that's where I think Oscar, he's trying to get his own push play going on the mid lane, and if someone has to come here, they have to deal with the Timbersaw, but that's where I think 4 Zoomers maybe starting their push a little bit sooner, have that option available to them, and unfortunately for Oscar, his mana is very precious to him, so getting EMP to sucks just a little bit more here, but that's why they smoke mid, because they want to find a kill. Don't know if they can kill Oscar, but they can certainly kill his friends behind him, but they do have the Static Storm.
The static, they actually toss the Mirana in as well, so Slayton is going to get taken down. A goes all the way in to get a defensive disruption onto Oscar. That may be enough to keep him safe, but yeah, you're going to lose the Shadow Demon, but here comes Alone looking for the return kill. Moo gets picked off. That's a nice play in return. What else can they do? Right now, not a lot, because Oscar's going to get his mana burned away again. Did have enough to chain himself out, but now he's going to get hit up by the Cold Snap. They've got the Thunder Strikes on him. They've got the Urn on him as well. Oscar's just not going to survive. That's way too much in the way of lockdown and DOT. And 4 Zoomers, Able to turn that into the 3-for-1 trade. Unfortunate that Moo dies, but they will be very happy, with the overall result. As Sladen, he's not going to do anything. He just TP's in here looking for some experience. It's enough to get him level 6, but he actually didn't scale up his ult. Instead, he tried for that play. Gunnar cancels his TP, but since they've already used the arrow, I don't really know if they can do this. Starstorm is neat, but it's not enough damage. Gunnar walks away, and both of the supports, oh, kind of mistiming things mid a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird from them, and okay. Well, Oscar tried to go for the big play, the cross-map timber chain that I don't even know if it's still in the game.
I don't think that works anymore.
I wish it worked still, but there were some games won and lost by tiny tosses and buybacks on the Z-axis as well as timber chain. The game's weird. It's still in beta, but I think now if you're Infamous, they want to get that formulaic push going. They want to just stick the timber saw in front of the last track and then hope that the push actually pans out. And I feel like that's where we might see these heroes just start kind of ramming their heads versus each other. But that's also where, unfortunately, Alone is going for those boots of travel. He's probably going to buy them in 50 gold here. Otherwise, he probably would have queued up something else. And they are making up smoke play with the Demonic Purge. And Costa Bile would be a very fine hero to get. And they do actually scan him out. But it's where they need to find a way to chop him down. And as soon as they Shadow Poison... Oh, that's an even better scan.
Yeah. Okay, scan and counter scan. Costabile can now be the bait as they're going to make the jump in. Sladen going to get hit up first. Dropping low. Should just be able to take him down pretty quickly. Sladen realizing he's dead just tries to get damage out. Not going to be enough. And now they'll turn their attention onto A as well. Quick 2 kills. Moo picks them both up. Immediate retreat from the cores on the side of Infamous. Alone at least. Able to make a smart play there. If everybody's up top, take the tier 1 tower and then back off.
Yeah, and now, well, you're in a very good spot. You did lose your mid tower. Kind of sucks, but at the very least, you're still getting trades and you're still looking for those later timings, and that's exactly what Costa Bile is doing. He's been very patient, hasn't been giving up any kills, looking for the Battle Fury build yet again, see if he gets the Ags right after, but he's got to feel very confident to go towards that later stage. Meanwhile, Lumiere, he's looking for his BKB, and once he has it, can only imagine Infamous needs to crank it up to another gear. Otherwise, they really don't have enough right now to make these plays or roll these towers until Alone can actually feel confident enough to push up. And Alone looks like he's actually going to switch it up and go for the Yules. So they have maybe another initiation tool, as Infamous don't really have a way to start a lot of these fights, but it is starting to feel like 4Zoomers are getting in a little bit of a groove here, especially because Moo just finished up his Echo Saber. So this Tiny does an incredible amount of damage, and they need to be so cautious when it comes to defending this tower, especially if 4Zoomers stay on this hill.
Really just sort of feels like, once again, Infamous are allowing 4Zoomers to dictate to them the pace that this is going to be played at. You're still waiting for some of those items. Maybe once they get them, then that changes. You can get a little bit more aggressive, start looking for the plays yourself, but for now, they continue to struggle. Oscar's going to get taken down the bottom lane. Gunnar will get stunned up, but he threw the tornado out first. It's going to hit on the 2. The Deafening Blast comes in as well. Alone, though, really does want this kill, but he's not willing to dive that far for it, and unfortunately, I don't think he now has a choice. He's going to get trapped up. He used his own Yules defensively, but once he comes down, he's inside both a kinetic field and a Wukong's command. And they won't get that kill. They lose Oscar first. Alone can't get Gunnar, then gets taken down. Not because. Wow, Lumiere on the Razor. Really nowhere close to helping that one out, as he really would like to finish his BKB first. But his teammates jump the gun, and now comes the aggression. 4Zoomers want to push forward. Sladen's going to get glimpsed. Oscar, okay, he'll TP in. They get an arrow onto Moo. That's a very nice return play. Moo actually is just going to die. Okay. 4Zoomers maybe a little bit too far forward here. Gunnar is being chased. Oscar, though, you do still need to be careful. You are tanky, but maybe not that tanky, especially now with Lumiere glimpsed out of the fight. I think they might just have to give up on this one. A, though, doesn't want to. Pushing in onto Husky, getting him trapped up in the disruption. Oscar needs a little bit more damage. He will be able to get it. This fight is getting very awkward at this point. As 4Zoomers' retreat is not as clean as they would like it to be. It looks like eventually they'll get Gunnar and Kosabile out of there, and Z-Freak is looking for a kill. Sladen is going to get picked off. Point-blank arrow doesn't really do much good. Now Lumiere has no way to cancel this TP.
Yeah, good stuff from Z-Freak, but For Zoomers, I think, walk a little bit too far ahead without their ultimates, without really a lot of their abilities, and, well, you're gonna get punished for it. Very, fast respawn timers still at this stage of the game, and there is still a tier 1 down there, so it's not really too hard for Infamous to get back into the fight, but, to start all of that off, though, still killing Oscar is so important, slowing down this Timber Saw way back when this fight actually broke out in the bottom wave, and that's still a massive loss for Infamous, because it did end up in Alone's death, and I think that's where we should probably see another smoke up from them. All it takes is a Yule Scepter onto Gunner, and then that's their beginning on the fight. That's their arrow connecting, and that's where four Zoomers need to be very cautious when it comes to giving up this Invoker's plays. But until then, and that play being successful for Infamous, Gunner almost has his Midas. He is really not skipping a beat on the Invoker. I want to say he's the most farmed Invoker that we've seen in quite a while here, and I think that's where Infamous might need to stop him pretty soon, because this Midas really is a turning point for the hero.
For now, though, they are just looking for some sort of smoke gank. Not really running into anyone immediately, though. Gunner is close if they can sort of guess the angle. Oh, hold on. Lumiere did get close enough, but I think they're just going to keep on chasing. Husky, though, is significantly less valuable, but it's the kill that I think they know that they can get. They're going to try and go for it. Meanwhile, Oscar did actually spot Costable, but can they actually shift their focus in time? Yes, they can. Arrow comes in from long range. Sladen's there for the stun, and Oscar, well, Eagle Eyes, able to spot out that Monkey King, and that's the kill that they absolutely wanted there. Husky would have been just not really enough.
Yeah, it definitely would have felt like a little bit of a whiff, but hey, that's where they got it. They got the kill they wanted, not the Invoker, and Gunner is able to get that Midas out to him, and now he's going to look much better for both farm and levels, but it's also where you do wonder if Infamous are doing enough right now. They're still falling behind gold-wise. They're not exactly able to find the kills that they want, even though Lumiere, he's certainly going to take another pick off onto Husky, but I think that's where, for Zoomers, they need to get together a little bit here. They're splitting the map pretty nicely, especially Moon, the top lane. He's being very obnoxious to Infamous, but I think that's where having this Blink Dagger completed and just a few 100 gold, or actually just 800 gold on the Tiny, means that the plays are coming, but oh, if that poison hits, I think, did AC him walk in, though? Moon needs to kill the Shadow Demon and then run.
He's not going to be able to do so. Well, he can get the kill at least, but he's not going to be able to run. As Moo will get locked down, Lumiere gets the kill, and you are very, very much okay with that trade. This Razor needs recovery gold to try and catch up to the Monkey King, and, well, that is a solid pickoff. Moo taken down, and now Lumiere that much closer to, what is this, the refresher out for him. So the Razor build really doesn't deviate all that much in recent times, ET, but it doesn't deviate because it works.
Yeah, and, well, Gunner's just looking to be obnoxious. He wants to get a BKB for us, but that's where, unfortunately, maybe if there's a Mirana on their team, that generates a little bit more threat here. It's where, unfortunately, the Bounty Hunter Disruptor duo isn't really the most potent, isn't really the strongest when it comes to actually setting up Gunner for ganks. It's really just more about bringing them back and allowing the rest of the lineup to flourish, but that's also where, a mid, Sladen.
Not going to be able to get... Ooh, not going to be able to get away. Tried to pop the ult there at the end, but still too much damage onto him. Husky's the one to get the kill alone. Sneaks away with an illusion rune. I don't really think... Yeah, they can't really fight this at the moment, but... Uh-oh. Boundless Strike will connect. Static Storm gets thrown down, and Oscar just chained into it. Costable will now channel out the ult, and this is going to turn into a horrible fight for Infamous. That's just really unfortunate, as Oscar is still stuck in this. Lumiere's going to try to join this engagement, but there's nothing he can really do. This TP from Costable is just going to get the Monkey King away. Maybe they get C-Freak here. A little bit more damage as Lumiere is able to get it, but now he's going to get glimpsed back in. Needs help from these supports as Sladen and A are trying to get themselves in here, and looks like for now their presence is going to be enough to keep their teammates safe, but Lumiere definitely has to fall back. For Zoomers, once again, I mean, they're able to turn one, and that's just a little bit awkward for Infamous. They don't clear up fast enough, and they're not actually done. They are going to get a... No, they're not. Not enough damage there with the initial play from Gunner, but the Boundless Strike is deployed again, and they'll get it the second time around. Shadow Demon falls. Infamous, at this point, really just need to kind of regroup here. If they keep on going in one at a time, then 4 Zoomers may just keep picking them off.
Yeah, and well, they will defend the tower with Alone resurging here, but I honestly don't think Alone was giving enough respect when that all started out on the Tiny, just getting clipped there, then in the Kinetic Storm, then just picked off. I don't know. It feels like a lack of respect a little bit from the Leshrac, but that's also where Infamous, yeah, they want revenge. They know that their timing is now, even though it is a little bit staggered going for this play after really losing a fight. But I think that's where the more they can get going, especially with this Razor, the better it's going to look for them. But Costa Bile is just a little bit too aware. The game sense is there. And now, if Four Zoomers want to, they could look for a smoke. And they've got a very deep ward in the Ancients. As soon as they see that nobody's farming there, it's pretty easy for them to make that call. They could either decide to break on the mid wave or instead, I think go bottom. Going bottom, it doesn't feel the nicest. In fact, I guess they're just going to stay on the hill, but they just saw two heroes. Well, here's your fight.
Gunner is sort of in the lead right now, though. It looks like Z-Freak may be the first to actually encounter an enemy, as he does get the track on Sladen. Now they'll go for the glimpse. And Sladen's just straight up trapped in this fight. No one can really come in to help him. What more can they find? There's a potential wrap actually from the Infamous side, because they're going to try and push their way in to get the Purge down onto Gunner. There's going to be that Soul Catcher as well, but now they're fighting into the Wukong's command. Lumiere's got to get out of it, but by getting out, he has basically pulled back from that fight, which means Alone really has to do a lot of the heavy lifting himself, trying to go up against Costable. That's not a fight he's going to be able to win. Oscar, meanwhile, that was a bit of a strange little trip around the tree line for him. Means he wasn't dishing out any damage, and, well, the fight's over at this point. Alone, he's just not durable enough. The Yule Scepter can't really protect him. He is not close or even really starting on something like a BKB, so just gets wiped out once he's in the fight. You would assume Lumiere would sort of be in that fight to take some of that heat off of the Leshrac, but again, Lumiere had to pull out of the Wukong's command on low HP, so then all of the firepower Four Zoomers has goes onto that Lesh.
Yeah, it really is where once Lumiere has this refresher, game kind of changes. You have a 12-second BKB effectively then. You're actually able to stay in the fight much longer, as well as actually being able to get through these very high armor cores on the Four Zoomer side, but they were also pushing their advantage. They got Gunner very far forward with the Demonic Purge, an instance that really I don't think they were ready to get kind of thrown into their lap as well, but there still is this concern, I think, if you're Four Zoomers. It's very hard to fight after your Monkey King uses his BKB. Can't really afford to stick around when he doesn't have his ulti either. It's where, unfortunately, the game could immediately spin out of control, and Oscar's trying to bait that DD rune a little bit, but he thinks better of it, but now they don't know about this ward. They have complete confidence to jump right now in Four Zoomers, and I don't know if Moo wants Sladen, but you might just have to take him.
They are not quite getting this cleanly just yet. Sladen buying a lot of time. Should still die, though, although they actually still haven't finished him off yet. Sladen's trying to get away. Moo is really tracking after him, and they will eventually make it happen. That buys time for everyone else to get into position. Lumiere's going to look for the wrap around. The Static Storm, though, is going to break up that play. Lumiere, however, activates the BKB, being onto the Monkey King with the Static Link as well, so he is just sucking that damage away. Costable will fall. Z-Freak dead as well, and Gunner, gotta be careful. He is trying to stay on the outer edge of this fight. His Tornado, though, gets thrown in and is enough damage to finish off Alone, so they will kill off the Lesh, but now he's got to deal with Oscar. Timbersaw pushing forward, looking for the kill. Gunner able to get away with the help of Husky, as he does have to throw down that kinetic field. And Oscar's got to be careful that he doesn't just die here. Those Forged Spirits, they shouldn't be enough, but if he sticks around too long, one of those heroes could have come back in onto him. So Oscar will fall back, and, well, they still lose a couple of heroes, ET, but that is a much better version of that fight for Infamous. Basically in the same spot, but much different result.
Yeah, and I think really just fumbling with the Sladen kill a little bit too much there. I don't think they were really talking about whether or not they need to glimpse him back, or whether the Avatos is going to be enough. Even Kostabui throwing out the Boundless Strike, and then suddenly the fight that follows, it almost results in a panic coming in from the Monkey King, and the sooner he pops his BKB, the sooner you are unable to really fight, and I think that's where Lumiere now, he is starting to get a lot of speed, and really, I don't think you want to be on even footing if you are the Monkey King. You need items like the Scotty, like the Ags. You need to really create a barrier in between you and the Razor. Not to mention, would really love to see some Force Staffs, something like that picked up, so that way you can try and break the link just a little bit easier, but that's where Four Zoomers are a little bit selfish with their itemization here. and really because they can afford to just a little bit, especially with the Boots of Bearing on Z-Freak. Now, maybe that's your escape plan, but it still feels like the links are a little bit too effective. There's a little bit too much damage coming out from Lumiere, and I think now if we see them fight again, this refresher is going to be a massive problem they have to deal with. They need to take a much longer fight, and they also need to, I think, hit up Lumiere before that first BKB goes down. I think that's really the only answer, is to just get your magic damage through, start the BKB off with maybe half HP, and then the Razor's much more scared to stick around, because right now there really isn't that physical damage threat.
Meanwhile, for the Four Zoomer side, Moo is getting that BKB delivered out to him, so, well, gonna make a difference here. The Tiny doesn't have to be quite as afraid to just jump into the middle of those engagements anymore, and once he's got it, they're gonna smoke up. It is a 4-man smoke. Costabile is not with them, but he's already set up in the top lane, so presumably they're coming to him. But yeah, there's the poison. Gonna be able to connect. Your Monkey King has to fall back, but it is worth noting, for said Monkey King, that Aghanim Scepter was completed. So the Stone Soldiers come into play, and they're really just going to go right in. That's a bold move from Lumiere. He gets off that first static link, but he's got the refresher. Going to be able to give it another go if he wants to. Whereas on the other side of things, the Wukong's command is not coming back up.
Yeah, and, well, that's quite the expensive spell usage, and okay, there are a lot of tracks right now. They know exactly where a lot of these heroes are. I'd love to see a Lotus Orb maybe built up on Oscar next instead of the BKB, but it's also where there is still the threat of Husky getting the static storm down, so I can certainly appreciate why he's going for it. But here's the secondary wrap. Four Zoomers are hugging the hill, but Husky breaking first would be a bad way to start this off.
Well, okay, there's your static, but there's no one here to follow it up, so Alone is not really going to be feeling the pain on this one. Husky himself not dead yet, but over to the side, no, Oscar just gets really caught out. All of the firepower for Four Zoomers applied to him as he will go down. And Oscar traded for Husky. Husky, though, buying back, getting himself into the engagement. But now here comes Lumiere. BKB active a second time. Ult coming out, looking for Gunner. Not able to finish him off just yet, but they do get that final hit in. But now Moo makes his move. They know the BKB is worn down. There's not a refresher orb any longer, so they need to get onto Lumiere. They're glimpsing him back in. That will be enough for the kill. And now the fight is really over. Lumiere goes down. They can't afford to take any more.
Yeah, that's with Infamous getting the hill back. I think they were so focused, again, on the support, it almost dangles in front of them, and Husky, well, he took the aggression from 3 of the 5 Infamous heroes, and that leaves, well, your Timbersaw kind of hung out to dry, and he just straight up dies. He died so quickly in that fight, and then the reverse is true. The Razor cannot stick around after the fight. He can't take what follows, and that's also where the buyback from Husky, that's your glimpse back. That's your fight that remains, and even though they got dewarded, you have all these tracks laid down by Z-Freak, and I think that combo is really starting to pay off for Zoomers. Even though you lose Gunner, now this might be their way onto the Roche pit. This is still a little bit of a force, but I don't think Infamous are really scouting it out here. Finally, the arrow gets them a little bit of an idea of what's going on here, but they also need to get into the pit, and with 2,000 HP left, getting a little bit close.
I don't know if they really want to go in.
Oh,
Just
he got
yeah.
back.
Okay, hold on. Static Storm gets thrown down. Nice defensive disruption coming into play, though. Alone, meanwhile, waited for the BKB to be delivered to him and get into the pit. Costabile, though, he grabs the Aegis, and now your Lesh. No, BKB or not, you walked into a Wukong's command. He just takes too much damage. Infamous get absolutely smacked down. And they didn't get anything. That was so close, and I like that play from Alone. He does wait so long as his courier was delivering that out to him, but if you're going to go in onto that Monkey King, you really do need to get him immediately, and because he doesn't, he just loses about 90% of his HP before the Yule Scepter can even be applied, and that attempt is just sort of doomed to fail.
No, and that's your BKB reveal. That's your run-in, really last-ditch effort. I don't think Lumiere was necessarily ready either for that dive in, that kind of reach for the Aegis, but instead, everything kind of falls apart for them, and, well, I think the Leshrac is still struggling really hard to get into this game. It feels like he really is playing behind every single core, and I think that's a position that we really don't want to be forced into. We're not seeing that same Dark Mega level Leshrac where he is a secondary core, he's a beast, he's someone who's taking the aggression from you. Instead, he's starting to feel a little bit like an afterthought, and that's not the position that Lumiere wants to be in. He needs someone else to force out the abilities beforehand so he can come up and clean up the fight, but without anything like that, Well, for Zoomers, they have 3 cores. They have the tri-core. They have an offlane Tiny. They are going to be able to scale, and I think that's where Infamous, they might have a very large problem on the horizon here. Not to mention, all of these tier 2s, they're starting to get cleaned up, and for Zoomers have all of this space to work with.
Zoomers definitely feeling like they have, well, everything going their way, right? Momentum, net worth, map control, all sort of coming into play for them, so they can afford to take whatever route they want here. They're going to push their way through bot, and Infamous, well, they're going to have to come back pretty soon here. This is looking like a high ground push. You see the TP's coming in now, but it's only about half the lineup.
Yeah, well, is this going to be too late? The tower has taken so much damage already, and, well, I guess they're going to just trade out the tier 1, but this still feels like a half measure, especially because Oscar is maybe skulking around the back end. He's going to cut the mid wave to maybe be a slight annoyance, but he also has to be very careful. Gunner's actually hunting him.
With the tornado in, doesn't connect. Meteor's coming out as he does have himself that shard. So triple meteor, none of them hit. Oscar's able to get away, and this is a nice distraction because you see Zoomers send about all 5 of their heroes up to the north to try and sort of track after him, and they're not really able to make anything happen. So the pressure on the base gets alleviated for now, but I don't know. That was a casual push in that very nearly got the tier 3 tower. So if Zoomers were able to make another push, you know, with the full creep wave, or even with the numbers advantage, if they can find a pick, then feels like that objective is going to fall pretty quickly, which means if you're Infamous, you have to be even more careful here. You really can't afford to lose much of anything at the moment.
Oh, it's a little bit disconcerting, but hey, at the very least, they are stabilizing what little bit of the map they have left. Unfortunately, Costabile did just finish up his Scotty, so now the Razor is going to struggle getting into the fight. Same with the last track. They really need to, I think, force out these early spells from Zoomers and then hope for the best, but you see how far they have to walk back in the daytime? With the vision, there's always the threat of just getting glimpsed and being helpless or starting a fight that you're not exactly ready for. At the very least, Oscar has his BKB as well, so all 3 of the cores on Infamous have their BKBs. They don't have to worry about that static storm just yet, but I also feel like Infamous are kind of stuck in their base right now. I feel like they need to smoke out after they clear this mid wave. Then maybe they could try and catch Zoomers off guard on the tier 2. This is a very healthy tier 2. The only problem is if they don't go for this play, well, they're not really doing a whole much of anything. They're just waiting for this age to time out, and it will time out in 40 seconds, but I wonder if that's going to be too late, because the lead is really starting to grow in between these heroes, especially for the Invoker, who is just able to pick up all these luxury items. Now, he has a BKB, so this is not an easy time killing anyone on 4Z.
I just feel like they don't have a lot of options right now, so, well, it's understandable, the frustration, but just because you don't have options doesn't necessarily mean, yeah, that you can afford to just sit back and do nothing. They do go for the 5-man smoke now. Problem is, well, Moo's already here to break that up, and he's just going to be able to walk away. They'll now pop the Moonlight, trying to keep this going. Arrow from long range hits onto Moo, but now they know the Monkey's here as well, but that might work out for them if they can kill off the Monkey King instead. No, they are just going to go straight for Moo. They do get that kill. Kostabli, meanwhile, with the static link, actually didn't lose much damage. He is going to be just fine. But once again, this fight is breaking up. Infamous feel like they're sort of losing cohesion, but if they can get onto the big targets, it could still work out for them. But Lumiere is going to go after Z-Freak instead of the Monkey King, and he's not even going to get the bounty. Z-Freak is walking away. Meanwhile, Oscar, well, he needs backup right now because he is in some serious trouble trying to deal with 2 core heroes onto him. He is timber chaining himself out from those meteors, but he is still dropped low, not quite low enough. Z-Freak can't finish off the kill, so at least Lumiere picks that up, but Oscar. Close call there as he very nearly walks into the Sunstrike, but it looks like he is going to be okay, and, well, that did not really go to plan. I guess they still get some big kills there, and you see gold-wise, even with both of their supports dying and buying back, they're still relatively even, but even is not good considering you have to use buybacks here, because those resources now won't be available for the next engagement.
Yeah, and that's 4 BKBs spent. That's pretty much all of your cooldowns. Your refresher is now on CD for Lumiere. At the very least, that isn't going to have an effect possibly on the Roshan, but it really just dissuades Infamous for going for anything else. And yet again, you lose the Lesh, which is very expensive. It still feels like he is not able to really be at full force here. Maybe if he had another, I don't know, 5,000 net worth, he'd be feeling more like a core, but it's also the issue where Alone needs a plate mail. He needs, I guess, a force staff is what he's saying. He needs a way to get in and out of these fights without having to be forced to commit his BKB, but it's unfortunately a circumstance where his teammates are also very selfish with at least their first item purchases. It's where we might need a little bit more net worth before we're fully ready to go for a fight. Meanwhile, on Forzuma's side, well, they've got the track kills, they've got the gold, they've got the net worth surplus. Z-Freak has a full BKB of his own, so he's just able to run in pretty much whenever he wants to. And we can see those Shadow Walk bashes, the Ag Shard coming into play way more now that Z-Freak has this BKB. And that could be your opening. That could be your bash into an Avatos, into a hero not getting their BKB off. Not to mention, Costabile just hit level 25 the same moment he finished his refresher. So Costabile is ready for the fight. He's ready for the long fight. And if you try to run into him, I honestly don't think you're going to win. He doesn't do the most building damage, but he does everything else fantastically. And oh, they have to be so careful. They're getting a little bit far away from their vision here, but Forzumas are also venturing into the dark. I think this might be where we see a little bit of a freeze when it comes to the aggression.
Well, Infamous, they used them, oh god, they used the Moonlight Shadow. That very nearly got them in on Xable, but not going to be able to get that. That arrow does connect, though, but this is not a play you want to follow up on. Into the high ground with just a lone stun on your Monkey King is really not going to be enough. So Infamous will play it cool, they'll back up, they'll look for another opportunity, but this is so insanely tough for Infamous, because I think at this point they realize, you know, we need a team fight. We need something to go our way, but if we push too far looking for it and lose really even half of our lineup, then the potential for a high ground defense kind of gets thrown out the window.
Yeah, and now, well, we're kind of stuck waiting, I think, for this next Rosh, and it is a very fast Rosh timer, and, well, they need to scout it out. Sladen will see in just a few moments here, or at the very least seeing that Husky is looking for it, and wait a second. Do they actually move over? I don't know if Sladen actually knows. I think he just saw that Husky was in the pit. I don't know if he actually saw the Rosh, because Infamous are kind of dragging their feet here.
Taking, yeah, way too long to get over here. Roshan already down to about a third HP. The arrow now connects, so now they know, but is it too late? They're going to try to bum rush their way to the pit, or maybe they won't. They're not really showing any sense of urgency moving their way over. And I think Forzumas might just get this for free. Cosable stays in the pit. Moo's going to come back to help him. Z-Freak, meanwhile, gets the kill on the low-health Mirana. So, yeah, they get everything that they wanted. Their opponents do not come to challenge them, so they take Rosh for free. They have Aegis and Shard. They find a pick onto a Mirana, who currently does not have buyback for another 3.5 minutes. And that should be their key to push the high ground. They're looking for the tier 3 top, and Infamous, once again, not in position for this. They're just going to have to rotate over as best as they can, but by the time they have everyone here, it might already be too late. They're just going to jump straight in onto the Leshrac, never pop the BKB, and he's just straight dead. Alone gone, his buyback is available, but well, you don't really want to use it, but I'm not sure they have much of a choice. The glyph is going to get popped, so Forzumas will be falling back for now, but once the glyph's off, the new creep wave's coming in, and they're just going to keep the siege going.
Creep wave's alive. It's a lot of nuke and very obnoxious, but there's A.
Makes a jump in. They've got the Shadow Demon. They'll take him down. No buyback on that SD, so now they have to fight, but they're fighting inside the Wukong's command again. Lumiere gets a nice static link that time, but they're just taking too much damage. Now the Glimpse is going to pull him in. No, it's not. BKB activated. The Razor will survive. Gunner, meanwhile, snipes out Oscar with the Sunstrike. So your Timber, well, is dead on the steps of his own fountain. He does have his buyback if the push comes in, and really, this doesn't feel like an if, because if you're Forzumas right now, why would you back away? They see an opportunity, and they are going to look to push it, but it's only the Monkey King in right now. The rest of the lineup is just kind of looking to regroup outside of the base before they push back in, and now they'll make the move. I don't know. Infamous, they've got to do something. They've got to be able to hold. Alone, though, gets spotted out, hit by the Boundless. BKB still not popped. He'll go for it now, but he's already lost half his HP. Just feels like it's too late. He's going to have to fall back. The Pulse Nova's not doing enough damage, and he has to get back into the fountain. He'll at least sidestep the Sunstrike, so he doesn't get picked off, ET, but that's the full top lane gone, and they still haven't found any pickoffs on the Infamous side. Now, Lumiere, you are out of the base without your BKB, without your refresher, without your ult, and without really any hope of escape. That is unbelievable.
And if my memory serves me correctly, I think he just bought out a Hex, and I think in doing so, doesn't have buyback. I think this might just be the game right here, and I don't know how you get 4 Zoomers out of your base. You need to maybe find a moment where you can just put Costabile under, try and kill everyone else. I think at this point, though, this bottom tower has already been so low from the split push before. This is probably going to be Megas here. They've got to go in.
Gunner's going to preempt them, though, pushing his way forward, wreaking havoc on that backline as Affliction tries to TP out. Not going to be able to make it, though. The Paladin Strike will cancel it. There's going to be the Wukong's command coming in once again as Sladen will be taken down. A just needs to get back, but I think the DOT may finish him off. Yes, it will. He goes down. And for Zoomers, I think they may have just done it here. They are looking to close this one out. Oscar is going to try to pop the BKB and fight, but he has to really just hold by himself because Alone has to be careful. Well, nope, not careful enough. Gonna get jumped in on. BKB comes out. Meanwhile, they actually get the glimpse onto the Timber, pulling him back into the Static Storm. And okay, let's not do this. Come on, boys. No need for that. Infamous gonna call the GG there. A little bit of disrespect from Alone. But if you're 4 Zoomers, I don't really think you care. You're the team that takes the win in the game and in the series, as 4 Zoomers will be moving on to that lower bracket final.
Yeah, and really, I think to 4 Zoomers' testament there, it felt like they won 3 games. I feel like in the first game, they certainly threw away a great opportunity that they had. It felt like that really was in the bag. I think it was 16k gold lead with 1 Rax left. It felt like they had Infamous's back up against the wall. But then in game 2, no shot. It was all 4 Zoomers. You had maybe some few cool plays, especially from Oscar and Slayton, but the rest of the lineup was certainly not keeping up to gear. And then in game 3, I think yet again 4 Zoomers just in the laning stage, in the rotations, I think they were never behind in terms of the gold lead. And of course, there is a bounty hunter in the game, but it also comes down to, I think, the respect that both Moo and Gunner really commanded in this series. I think they did a fantastic job. Moo, yet again, I mean, 17, 6, and 16, his offlane just is not stopping. I think he's really mad. He's really looking to, I think, tear apart his opponents here. And I'm really excited to see their next series now, because I think that's one of the 1-1 splits where we didn't get to actually see the answer in those best of 2s, but it's also where Costabile played 3 different carries, 3 different games. The versatility is certainly there for 4 Zoomers. Sometimes it does feel like maybe their drafts fall apart just a little bit, but here they had a completely different idea. They had the Disruptor bounty. I think their second pick drafts are just terrifying, and there's something completely different that no other team, and especially the SA teams, are just not really ready for, I think, at this stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Infamous at least didn't seem ready to deal with it. And ET, I think we have a answer potentially to our question about the Tiny. This hero is just strong in any core position. Still not really super enthused about it in the position 4 role, but as you said, Moo, 17, 6, and 16, he was just as dangerous on the Tiny as a 3 as you would have expected from really the 2 or the 1. So is that the Tiny? Is that Moo? Maybe it's a little bit of both, but 4 Zoomer is definitely happy with the result.
Yeah, and I think really we got a little bit of our answer. Did Infamous have what they needed to kill the Tiny? Certainly.
Mm-hmm.
Were they able to do it from behind? Maybe not. And maybe that is the difference maker here, where if 4 Zoomers are on even ground, if the Tiny has equal spacing and equal footing versus the Shadow Demon and the Timbersaw, it certainly looks a lot better, and we have the position swap up. So maybe 4 Zoomers just being a little bit more aware of the strengths and the benefits, especially of that Timbersaw, than some of these other teams. But I think really now, Infamous gone, 4 Zoomers, they're looking ahead already. They're looking for their next matchup.
Yeah, they will be moving on to face Lava. Before we get to that, though, I do believe we have an interview. Yeah, we do. Got an interview. I think we got Costabile in here, so we will we'll step away for just a moment to get everything set up, and we'll be back with that winner's interview in just a few minutes. Okay, there we go. We are set up and ready to go here for our post-series interview. We are, going to be talking to Costabile of 4 Zoomers, Thank you very much for coming to have a chat with us, and congratulations on taking that series.
Thank you, thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
You don't have to lie. You don't have to lie, man. We know what's up.
It
Just
is. It is.
uh, yeah, appreciate you being here anyway. And well, we're gonna dive right into this one here because ET and I were sort of talking about it a little bit. Game one, you guys sort of build up that big lead, and then some things happen. Infamous end up sort of coming back in and mounting that comeback. But for the next two games, you guys, it didn't really seem like you overreacted. You built up that same advantage, cut down on the mistakes, and then closed out games 2 and 3. So I just sort of want to ask, after that first game, did you guys sort of think in your minds, we had them where we wanted them, we can just sort of play the same way and we'll be in the same position?
Yeah. After the game ended, we're all like kind of sad, not too emo, but like we knew the game was ours, and like we just let it slip through. So yeah, we just talked with each other, and we knew like, okay, some item build changes, some like high ground, and like minor mistakes, and like we knew like it's our it's more likely like um not like to disregard infamous, but it's like it was more our mistakes than like their own merit. So we knew like we just had to cut our mistakes and just play our own Dota, and we would be just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, no, no disrespect to your opponent, but that did sort of feel like the way it sort of played out, where they were able to get back in because to a certain extent your play sort of gave them those openings. But I do want to ask you, so for the game three draft specifically, you open up, you get yourself the tiny first, then the Monkey King that gets sort of shifted into your hands. Was the switch up with Moo playing the tiny something that you were planning initially, or does that just come about because of what you see Infamous drafting on their own side?
Uh, we have like a plan, but most of the things like especially first phase heroes, they're just like flat heroes. So the reason they're strong is just like they're flats. So we just wanna like, yeah, so we pick like certain heroes we know they can flex and play all the roles, and we should decide like at the end like what we can do with them. Like we shouldn't go like a really preset plan for every hero and every player. We just see how it works out.
Well, appreciate you answering that because we always kind of wonder because we're following along in the draft and then you think, was this the plan all along? Did they just react sort of better than their opponents? So uh, do appreciate you clarifying that. And well, as obviously as we can see, the results of that switch up got you guys a very impressive win there. So planned or otherwise, very very nicely done. But
Yeah.
I'm gonna hand it over to ET. I think that's really all the questions I had here, and we're gonna try not to keep you too long.
All
Yeah,
right.
and really the only thing I can think about is you guys are feeling comfortable, you're not feeling like you rather are feeling very positive. Is the team atmosphere still, you say you got a little emo in game one, feel like you guys kind of threw a little bit, but it's still very positive. You guys are still bouncing ideas off of each other pretty constantly, especially being this early on in the patch.
Yeah. We like it's hard to not like stay sad after the game, but
Hmm.
like the main goal is like to not like carry on to the other game and to the rest of the series. So like I'm not gonna lie and say like we're gonna be perfect human beings and be like, okay, nothing happened. Like that game was
Hmm.
like nothing happened, but like we just take a break and we breathe and like we come back. And yeah, the team atmosphere is amazing. Like we trust on each other, and we can talk about Dota things and personal things without like anyone getting like personal attacked. So
Mm.
that's a really good thing like teams should have, because if you have something stuck in your mind and don't say it, like it's gonna be bad in the long run. So the really good thing on Forest Numbers is like we can just say anything to each other and we wouldn't be offended. So yeah.
Okay, so it's not just a team. It's not just pure business. You guys are you're friends on top of all that, which I think I totally agree with you. Having that atmosphere is
Yeah, it
much
always has to
more.
be a balance, right? You can't like
Mhm.
go full to the one side and to other. So it has to be a good balance.
Mhm. And I guess to that certain point, maybe, you could throw him under the bus a little bit here. With Mu as the drafter, is there still that 5 people talking all the time about these hero picks? Because you guys do have these very wide hero pools, or at the end of the day, is it all just funneled through Mu? He's the one that gets to make the last decision, but he's also at the reins, or are you guys always just bouncing these ideas off in draft?
I mean, we talk a lot in the draft, all 5 players, but yeah, everyone has a. I think this is the thing I played for sure with the most wide hero pool. Like
Mhm.
every week, someone comes up, oh, this hero is good. Oh, I think we should try this. So it's really good, but it's also really good that Mu is the captain and he decides, okay, maybe this is too far fetched. Like maybe we're just like doing it too much. So it's always like good to have a captain who most of the time just decides it and doesn't let like you don't want like your captain just pick uh whatever hero and anyone wants to play because then the draft's gonna become a mess. So you
Mhm.
need someone to like, no, I don't think we should pick this hero. We need to like get a team fight or whatever. No, so it's good to have a person who takes comments on that.
Yeah, and is not necessarily like a pushover. And I guess to that same point, is there ever a time where you're like, "Man, that was bad." Immediately, you just say, "Yeah, that idea did not work out. Let's move on." Especially now that Husky told us yesterday that it is a little bit of a playing at ground. Do you guys have that immediate reaction where you're like, "That didn't work. Throw it out the window. We'll try something next time."
Yeah, I think we tried a lot on the group stage. Like every day we would just come up with a new idea. So it's not like we're taking like not seriously, but like we're trying. And yeah, we just have to again come up with this balance of like trying new things and not be stuck with the old meta, but also like okay, identifying this is good and we should like bring it to another series or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you guys do find a good balance though, because it is a little bit annoying whenever we see the same 20 heroes, especially in a patch that, at least on the surface level, is not seeming all too different from the previous patch. But
Yeah,
that's it for me.
it just comes down to like everything, right? Like there's some teams are comfortable playing the same hero over and over and the same strat, and there's other teams like they can't really stand playing the same strat and same heroes over and over. That's at least my case. I don't want to play like the same hero for 5 games straight. So
You don't want to play
you just
Jugger Medusa every single game? Come on, dude. That'd be
oh
fun.
Dusa like I played so much Dusa in the last patch. It got to a point it was so boring. Like I couldn't like I just had to switch up. So it just comes down like whatever your team feels like and wants.
Okay.
Well, yeah, sounds like you guys got really kind of the perfect mix going. Good strats, good execution, good chemistry between your teammates from what you're telling us here. So it's showing up in the games for sure. And well, I do want to ask you now one last question. Facing up against a lava in that lower bracket final. I mean, I'm not going to ask you if you think you can win. Obviously, you do. But how well do you think your team, as it stands now, stacks up heading into that matchup?
Uh, I think we should just take a time and relax because this series was like pretty pretty long
Hmm.
and like stressful games. And yeah, I think they're a very good team and they're a fucking oh sorry. Uh
You're good,
It's
dude.
they're
fine, man. It's fine.
yeah, they are like a TI caliber team. They went to TI that did really well on major, and they lost some of the mojo they had. Like the potential is always there, so I respect them a lot. And but I think if we just like chill and sleep well and whatever, and play our own Dota again and minimize our mistakes, we should have a really good chance tomorrow.
Well, we wish you all the best. Good luck in that series, and uh, we'll see if we're talking to you tomorrow afternoon after a victory as well.
Okay, thank you. See you guys.
Yeah, and there goes the cameras. One of these days I'll actually preemptively make that swap, but it is not today, folks. Instead, we'll just swap over to the other screen. But yeah, appreciate Kasable coming and talking to us as 4Zoomers get themselves that win. And the NA Torch still being carried here. We have a North American team in the top 3. Obviously, 3 SA teams would not have been bad. Still would have been some nice stuff in terms of the games, but you always do like to see both regions represented as deep into that playoff bracket as possible. So tomorrow afternoon, it'll be 4Zoomers going up against Lava. Winner advances for a chance to finally take down Thunder Awaken. So we are going to be getting into some good stuff there. ET, that first series, obviously going to be just sort of a dogfight between the two of them.
Yeah, and I really am excited to see what they go for. Again, we talked about with him just having so many heroes to pull from and having Mu having to filter out everything. But we also get our answer. They got I think a 1-1 in the group stage, so we get to see in the de facto form which team is ready. But like Kostabile said, they are a TI caliber team. They are very strong and, maybe lost the mojo, but you always need to be scared of them pulling it back instantly. And we've seen how scary they can be.
Yeah, when Lava's at their best, they are a very scary team. So we'll see how that one plays out. That will be our first series, obviously, up tomorrow. Do want to make a note here for the time. Because we have a best of 3 into a best of 5, we are going to be starting things off an hour earlier than we have been so far in the playoffs. So Lava versus 4Zoomers will be getting started at 1 p.m. Pacific time instead of 2. Basically back to the start time that we had for the group stage matches. So, yeah, be here an hour earlier on if you want to check that out. Otherwise, you might miss some or all of that first game, and you definitely don't want to miss the start of that series. So, yeah, time shifted. We will still be here though, ready to go as we get into the very last day of Pro Series 10. For now, though, ET and I will be signing off. So, thank you all for watching. We will see you tomorrow afternoon.